Hey everybody, welcome back to On the Verge podcast, the Truth in Podcast. Date is May 30th, 2025. Okay, so let's start out with introductions of some of our guests. I'm sure you all know Trent. He's been here before. Trent, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Trent Drake. I am the chair of the Douglas County Republican Central Committee and Virgil's campaign manager.
And to my left.
Gina Beam. I'm the executive director for Glider Revitalization, a paramedic up at North Douglas Fire, and recently elected to the transportation board. And I think, and I run the Sasquatch Festival. I think that's about it.
And I knew that.
Yeah.
And to my far left.
Yeah, I'm Representative Dwayne Yunker. I'm from House District 3, which is about 80% of Josephine County.
Great. Well, thanks guys for joining me. So today is going to be a little different format. We're going to talk a little bit about the Republican Party picnic coming up, and then we're gonna touch base on the Sasquatch Festival, and then we're gonna let Dwayne kind of have a go at it here. So normally our podcast is pretty nonpartisan. Today we're going to be a little more partisan, maybe a little unusual for how the podcast goes, but you know what? Sometimes you just got to do that. And it's my podcast, so if you don't like it, I guess you can either start your own or not watch. That's always an option. But first, I want to thank some of our sponsors real quick. Little Mill Media, these are the folks that are here that are putting this on. Justin and Garrett, they do a great job of keeping us looking good, even when we're not great on camera. Sometimes voices, or let's see, a face for radio. Is that what they call it? Right? They make us look good. And Twin Peaks Off Road, that's my company. We also sponsor this podcast as well. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming on the show today. And let's go ahead and start out with the luau that's coming up. Trent, I'm pretty excited about that. Tell us about that.
Well, we're doing a full Polynesian luau, complete with dancers out of the Vancouver area that we've used before. I've been doing pig in the ground luau's for a lot of years. And we also have special guest speaker.
Daniel Bottom,
Senator Bottom. I've got a good Samoan buddy of mine that's also going to talk with us, Satila Tuivanu. Great American story, came here, couldn't speak English, and has become a success story. And he's out of the Central Point area, kind of your neck of the woods. And golly, like I said, the pig in the ground, the dancers, and including fire knife dancers.
Okay, wait, this is a Republican event.
A Republican event, okay. Fundraiser to help support our local Republicans.
Okay, and where is it?
It's going to be a bar run on June 28th.
Okay. And how do people get tickets?
They can call me at 541-580-0615. They can go to our website, douglascountyrepublicans.com, and there's a link there that you can purchase tickets there. Tickets are $125 a piece. You can buy the whole table. There is a media sponsor at $2,500 a table. If you so choose, we're going to have a silent auction. Going to be a great time.
Cool. Now, I remember last year we did an event like this. I think it might have been the first luau the Republican Party did, and had a pig in the ground, which I think you're going to do again. Mm-hmm. But then there was like a little ritual when the pig came out of the ground. So are we going to do that again?
For the early birds that get there, yeah. So pig's probably going to come out of the ground about 4:30. So we have everybody ready to go to eat, because it takes a little bit. We're doing 2 pigs this year.
Oh,
so it's going to take a little bit to pick the pigs down. They're smaller pigs than what we had last year. I want to give a shout out to Winston Grocery Outlet too, and Dean and Jeannie Thiessen. They're donating 200 pounds of pork shoulder that we're also going to cook in the ground.
That's great.
And we're doing a full plate lunch bar run's going to help us put on.
Okay.
So yeah, going to be a lot of fun.
Well, look, you have my endorsement on this. This is a great event. I'll be there. Daniel Bonham, our senator, one of our senators from district, I don't remember what his district is, but it's north up around Hood River. He'll be doing the keynote speaking, and he's really, really good, well-spoken, totally understands politics. And then I'm sure a host of other state representatives and other senators will probably be there as well. So it'd be a great time to mix and mingle.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump on to our next thing. I'm really excited about this one too. Last year, I finally got to go and spend some time there, and it's the Sasquatch Festival, and that's happening in Glide coming up really soon, and Gina's going to tell us about that. I did a quick AI search of you, Gina, and it talked about a couple of things, and I think I didn't want to write down too much stuff, but you're the executive director of Glide Revitalization.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So tell us about that, and also you're a paramedic.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I know that because you keep us alive. And you just recently got elected for something. So tell us all about that, and then tell us about Sasquatch Festival.
All right. So I've been the executive director for a little over 2 years. Originally volunteered and was part of the board, and then started working there part-time and ended up stepping in as executive director. Been a lot. We started out really focused on fire recovery efforts after 2020, and then have shifted focus, opened a daycare, have done preschool promise, workforce development. We replanted over 400,000 seedlings from Archie Creek Fire. No cost to the landowners, which was huge. We do fire prevention and mitigation efforts, partnering with Glide Fire, Oregon State Fire Marshal, the Oregon Youth Conservation Corps, which is Phoenix School. And they have provided countless number of students that come through and do mitigation work at people's houses, creating defensible space. If there's anything going on out in Glide, we probably are part of it at this point.
You probably know that.
Yeah, and our big focus is revitalizing the town, making sure that Glide stays on the map and that people know that there's still stuff out there and getting people out there. I've been a paramedic, I don't know how many years. I'd have to do some math.
Happens when you get old, you
Yeah.
start forgetting the
But I've been in EMS, emergency medical services, since about 2015, I'm sorry.
20 years.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like those numbers. Yeah. Make that smaller. And I still do that, not as much as I would like to, just because of everything else keeping me so busy, but I still get on the ambulance when I can, and then I volunteer at Glide Fire now too. And then, as you were saying, I did recently get elected for the Umpqua Public Transportation District.
Congratulations, by the
Thank
way.
you. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm excited to get started there and see the direction we can take everything. So
I think you'll bring some good conservative values there. That's really good. I'm happy for you. You were there during the Arch Creek Fire. I think you were participated in the recovery of that. You still are. Glide revitalization is very much wrapped up in that. But recently we had these floods.
Yeah.
And just so our audience understands where the money comes from, how the money flows through, explain to that if you would.
So there's a couple of different avenues that it would normally take. Like with the Archie Creek Fire, it was really big, right? The entire state was affected by those fires, and it got a ton of national attention, which means there was a ton of funding coming our way. To everyone that was affected by the fires, and not just through state and federal agencies. It was grants, private donors, a lot of philanthropy. The flood event has been a little bit different because it isn't as big a magnitude, even though we have more households affected than we did with Archie Creek Fire. The funding has been tough to get out the door. So we did get a declaration. We're waiting to see if the feds will kick in funding for it. But more importantly, we got state support. Virgil, you were a big part of that, as well as the representative. What was the other representative?
It was involved. It was Representative Owens.
Yeah.
Was it Harney County?
Harney County, yeah.
Yeah.
So Harney, Coos, and Douglas kind of all got the same chunk of funding. So funding from that is coming through the long-term recovery group, which we still represent. And then we'll go to the individuals. And the way that works is the state dictates who can get what. So they give us a pretty rigid set of guidelines, and we call them tiers. And through that, they basically place a level of severity of the impact. And there's other things that go into it, such as the age of the person impacted, their income level, small kids, are they at high risk for health issues, different things like that. And then we take all those requests, we structure them and put them in an organized way, and then we take them back to the state. The state then approves it, and then funding hopefully comes through. And some of those we are able to front load the funding, meaning we just supply or pay for whatever is needed, but a lot of it is goes through a state process, which can take 2 to 3 weeks.
So Glide revitalization has just been amazing, and with your leadership there, of course. But thank you for explaining how the money kind of flows through, and thankfully it's a nonprofit, right?
Yes.
An NGO.
Yep.
Thankfully we have these type of organizations that can help the community. When after the flood, of course, my phone blew up. Everybody wanted I think if they had their perfect way, I could write a check for everybody from the state. But that's not how the money flows. The money flows through an organization such as the one that Gina is in charge of, and then it's distributed throughout that. So you have to make a lot of important decisions yourself and a lot of paperwork. And thank you for that work you do. But now I want to talk about some fun stuff.
Okay.
I absolutely love the Sasquatch Festival. I don't have them on today, but I usually, on Fridays, I typically wear my Sasquatch socks that were given to me by Gina as well. So Tell us about Sasquatch Festival. What kind of entertainment do you guys have there besides just Bigfoot? And
Right.
tell us about it.
Well, the purpose of the festival is to get people back out into Glide. It's to generate commerce and help um, help with the loss of the tourism traffic. After 2020 RT fire, a lot of people aren't going upriver. There's not as much to do or see up there, and so it's getting people back out there to see that there's still stuff there. So last year we had over 4,500 people attend. When we look at our numbers, which ends up being a little bit complicated because we're looking at several different social media platforms, we're looking at website traffic, we're looking at shares and new interactions. We are double the number of views in a day that we were at this time last year. So some of the numbers I was sent the other day, we had 11,000 people a day
Wow.
that were interacting with our posts and media. So
So you're gonna need more parking.
yeah, we're gonna need more parking. Which is good because the long-term plans for this is to make it more than one day.
Mm-hmm.
I was just meeting with Straters the other day, and they provide the property for us. So it's Strater Ranch, which is kind of cool because I actually spent a lot of time there as a kid ranching. And we are working on reviewing what happens this year and how many numbers we have and seeing if we can expand to that 2-day event next year. I also, just yesterday, finally finalized plans that next year we will bring some timber games to this.
Nice.
So yeah, we have a local guy that still competes, and we're going to be actually bringing some of that to the festival next year, which is really awesome.
I've met that guy and his family. I think he
Yes.
has some relatives that compete too.
Yeah,
Amazing stuff. What's his name? I don't remember.
Mike Forrester.
Okay, Mike
Yep,
Forrester.
Mike
Of course, his
Forrester.
last name's Forrester. Why would?
I mean, you kind of have to go into the industry when that's your name. Yeah. So this year, though, we upped our music. So the plan was from the beginning is to bring in bigger and bigger names. And this year, our headliner is Cafe Anderson.
Nice.
He recently performed, I believe, at the inauguration, and then is a pretty well-known country singer. Excited to have him there. Buffalo Speedway is coming back this year. They come all the way from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and they were phenomenal and a ton of fun. Last year, they actually were able to stay after the festival and ended up at breakfast with all of them. And I think it's something like 13 kids between the guys in the band.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount of kids. They're a lot of fun, high energy. To start the day off, we have the Second Chance Band. Mike Miller, who is from the Ohio Night Stalkers, he's one of the experts that's coming. The Daniel Nichols Band. Todd Neese, who's a researcher. And then we have a surprise performance, which when I looked at it today is also a surprise to me. So I probably need to ask a few questions because I have no idea what our surprise performance is. I'm a little worried, but it'll be fine. And then we have Bailey Hyde, Biko Wright, who's this Discovery Channel. Bigfoot Expeditions will be there. And then, like I said, Buffalo Speedway and Cafe Anderson. Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. Again, when is it? What day?
So the festival is June 21st, and we extended the hours a little bit. It's 10 to 10 this year. And the only reason we were able to expand the hours too is our sponsors. So David and Kelly Trincaro are fabulous. They're our title sponsor again this year, as well as Strater Ranch for the property. And then Lotus Media, Aviva Health, Roto-Rooter, Destination Events, United Rentals, and Lone Rock Resources were all huge sponsors this year.
That's great. David and Kelly Trincaro, I met them last year really for the first time at dinner, and amazing people. I mean, I mean, they're so happy to help our community out, which is what the event's all about. So, well, thank you so much for being the person behind that event too. Is there anything you don't do for the community? I mean, it's like, seems like your whole life wraps around that.
Well, I don't sleep a lot.
Yeah. Neither do I.
Right, yeah. But no, I'm pretty busy.
Yeah, it comes with the territory. Well, hey, we're going to cut real quick to a break to notice some of our sponsors, and we will be right back after that with our main speaker here today, and that would be Dwayne Yunker, House Representative from District 3.
Is your 4x4 ready for the trail? Twin Peaks Off-Road is your first stop for maintenance, repairs, and custom upgrades. From differential services to winch installs, we do it all. Fast, reliable, and built for adventure. Don't wait for breakdowns in the backcountry. Call Twin Peaks Off-Road today at 541-900-0015 or visit twinpeaksoffroad.net. Keep your 4x4 off the roads and in the adventure.
All right, welcome back, everybody. we are going to now move on to the last part of our podcast, which I'm really excited today to have Representative Yunker with us. And I did a quick AI search of some of his background, and the thing that probably stood out the most was that he has 21 years of service in 3 different branches of the military, which is pretty amazing. I serve with him in the House of Representatives right now. I will go ahead and tell you, if you want to, or you're concerned about politics or partisanship at this point, might be a good time to go get a cup of coffee and maybe turn off your feed, because we're going to get a little bit partisan. We have a lot to talk about. We're getting down into the last 30 days of session right now, and things are very heated. Representative Yunker is in the middle of that heat, and we encourage him to be in the middle of that heat because somebody's got to take it, I suppose. But we also support him, and it's been fun, and I think we had a lot of really cool stuff to talk about today. So Representative, please again introduce yourself and tell us what makes Dwayne Yunker tick.
Yeah, I'm again Representative Dwayne Yunker from House District 3, which is Josephine County mostly. What makes me tick is I have 4 kids. My wife's a veteran too.
Nice.
Pretty much grew up, wasn't born in Josephine County, but I grew up elementary school, middle school, high school there. And so yeah, I never voted anywhere in my life other than Josephine County, even though I've been in the military. This is my home, my background. I care about Oregon, and I care about my community. I care about the future. I don't have any grandkids, but I'm assuming I will someday. All my kids are adults now. When they choose to have kids, I guess I'll be a grandpa. But
I'm guessing you probably vote Republican.
I've never been a registered anything else but a Republican since I've been a registered Republican. Since yes. So when you can register, yes, that's when I became a Republican.
So what is your background? I know you've been in politics a while. How did you get into politics, and what were your first positions?
So I've always been interested in politics, and I got a call from a friend that is actually my older brother's best friend. And he's like, "Hey, Dwayne, we need you to run for city council." It didn't take me long to say yes. And I was kind of fearful of ever getting into politics because I was like, well, I don't know if they're going to like my edge, they're going to like my bluntness of things. So, and one of my friends goes, well, they're either going to like you or hate you. And I was just like, so obviously I went down and talked to the Republican Party in Josephine County. We have a pretty good Republican Party. I said, yeah, I'm going to run for this position. They talked to me, and I was a shoo-in, obviously. I ran for city council in Grants Pass, and I was there for 2 years. And then I said, well, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to run for the legislature. And I'd actually put in a run, and the representative that was in that seat actually resigned, and I got appointed to that seat. So last year I was actually doing city council and House representative, and then I got reelected to this spot.
Yeah, short period of time. I think you were with us, and
our shirt says, I got in, and I got sworn in December of 23.
Yeah. And one of the things I like about state representatives, and for that matter, senators, are people that make a difference, right? If you can go into the legislature and make a difference, like be that personality that can't be ignored, with that voice that can't be, you can't not hear it. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you. We have formed obviously you and I are friends. We've also formed a kind of a coalition between myself and you and Representative Harvick, Representative Scarlatos, Representative Warner-Reski, and we tend to vote very conservative. In fact, I talk about that. I think we pretty much only vote, well, on occasion, some of us slip and vote the other way, I think, to make a point, but we pretty much stay conservative, don't you think?
I think we are probably the most conservative group of people that are principled conservative on every policy, that we're not going to vote for taxes. We're not going to vote for things that we know they're going to hurt. Josephine County and Douglas County are not too far apart when it comes to politics. So we're going to look at what helps our people out the most. And I think everybody in our coalition has said that this is what our core principles are. They've signed on to that. Every once in a while there's a policy bill that's a kind of
it's going to pass.
It's going to pass. But I think for the most part, when it comes to those core issues, we never stray away from those core issues.
Yeah. And it's been an interesting session. This is my 3rd session, and we have a lot of new faces, yourself included, Representative Scarlatos and Harvick as well. And in the first session in 23, I was kind of the gun guy, right? I mean, I had to, we had a lot of really bad gun bills. I probably had the most gun experience in the house at that time. Alec came in, and he's a federal firearms dealer, so he's got a lot of gun experience. So I was happy that now I have him. He's kind of taking the lead against the gun bills. And you've came in and you are taking the lead on a lot of really hot topics. And I'm gonna just mention right off the bat. I remember, was it Senate Bill or 1098? I think you.
Yes, and Bill 1098. I'm under investigation. I'm the bad guy because I read a high school book on the floor of the House of Representatives, and it is a book that's in North Valley High School, if you know where that is, in Josephine County, and that a mom read.
Yep.
And I was trying to make a point. That bill is actually coming to the floor. We'll probably vote on that bill on Monday. I'm assuming it's there. Yeah, it's a hot topic.
It's very rare that a representative can stop the entire process of what's happening in the House for that long, and you did it by reading by reading the bill, and the speaker couldn't hear you very well, so you were gobbled. And then he asked you to go ahead and continue and read a little louder, and you didn't hesitate to read a little louder.
Yeah, that was a 3-minute speech. It took 35 minutes to happen. So it's a remonstrance is 3 minutes, and that's all you get, and they'll cut you off. But that took 35 minutes. That ordeal on the floor.
I think the point was very well made, and I think everybody left that building understanding that what you were trying to get across was true. I mean, you read a book, or you read a section of a book. You and I talked about it prior to you reading. I'm the House Republican whip, so I'm the guy that has to go up to the dais and defend when somebody's getting gavelled, and it was a pleasure to go up there because they're like, I'm going, all right, guys, we'll make your decision here. It's okay to read that in high school, but it's not okay to read that on the House floor. And they didn't have an argument. I mean, you won that battle.
Yeah, well, I won the battle on the floor. Other than the investigation and hostile work environment. I don't know what that is, but these are all adults working there,
Well, you like to hope so anyway.
I hope so. And I look at free speech too, as I'm sent there to speak for my constituents and other people in Oregon, and they were upset, and they're still upset about this issue of if there's things inappropriate. I think the Democrats are really trying to spin into a racial thing. My people are like, if it's inappropriate, we should have a voice to take it out of the school libraries. We could care less about who the author is versus if it's inappropriate for children of that age. And I think that's, us growing up, inappropriate things were put behind the counter in a cover or in a special store or something.
Dwayne, you have kids. You have a daughter or two.
I have
right?
two daughters, yeah.
And they're competing in high school sports, right?
Well, my daughters are graduating now. My youngest daughter plays college soccer.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I know that you and I have had some discussion in the past about men and women's sports.
Yes.
And that's a passion of yours, and understandably so, why you'd be against it with your daughters competing. What's going on with that?
Well, in Oregon, nothing's changed. There is some investigations, but from the federal administration, we as a representative have not. We have a bill there right now. We could pull it to the floor. The Democrats don't want to talk about it. I think that you could see in California right now that there's a uprising there. People are speaking out across the country. There was a representative in Maine that actually got censured. It all went all the way to the Supreme Court for her speaking out against, boys playing girls sports. I think it is we're talking about fairness. I don't think we're talking about anybody's sexuality or whatever else. I think this is a fairness issue. Is we're just built differently, and that's not hard to look at stats when it comes to boys and girls, how fast they run, how fast jump or whatever else it is. We're just not the same, and and I don't remember what year that women's Title IX came out. I think it was in the 60s to get women to play sports and get them involved, and here we are. We're pushing them back against their rights, and now we're having boys and men taking their awards and being on the podium, and I think that's wrong. And last year my daughter had to play in Washington State. She played against a 32-year-old male in a soccer game. I think that's just totally wrong.
Yeah, and you've been a real voice against that, and I appreciate your outreach. And and you're right. The Democrats in the House try to label you as prejudice, and they try to label you as anti this and that. But you're not. I mean, I've got to know you pretty well in the last year. You're not. You have black friends. I mean, you're not that. I don't view you that.
We're taking a black girl to Hawaii with us.
Yeah.
In fact, she's a Democrat. We're taking my daughter's friend
Yeah.
to Hawaii with us. We look at people as people, but we're looking at these as issues. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
These are not fair issues. I grew up in a time, trying to take over, but I want to look at us all as just people. If I don't like Virgil, it's because I don't like Virgil as his policy or his attitude or his whatever. It's not
Because you like Rep Nelson better.
Yeah, I like Rep Nelson
better.
better. It's not because the color of your skin or what your biz is because of how you act or whatever it is. That's how I look at look at people.
Yeah.
That's how I was in the military. Is I've worked for many people that do not look like me. Things worked out fine, and they got promoted for merit,
Yes.
not because of their skin color or anything like that. In the merit, I want to look at merit base.
Yeah.
If you're not performing, then you shouldn't be getting moving up.
Well, and where you sit right next to me on the House floor, and we've talked a little about a couple of your speeches, and I don't think there's too many people I have ever seen, at least in my 3 short years of service, get away with calling Democrats clowns on the House floor. But
Whoa, but that's what you assume I'm doing because my speeches are very vague by rules.
That's true. But you've been allowed to continue with your speeches for the most part. Occasionally you get gavelled.
Yes. Well, I've been gavelled and then I win my case because I'm trying to learn how to outsmart them with me calling them clowns. So,
well, one of the things, in your quest for trying to eliminate men in women's sports, since we have a woman here today, I kind of wanted to get Gina's opinion on that.
I think there's a big difference between a co-ed style sports team because my daughter and my son both played on co-ed soccer, and then just having men in a women's team. So when we did co-ed too, though, there was a lot of complications. I know when my son played, they were constantly getting yellow cards and being told they were being too rough again and again, just playing at their level. So my son actually had to play down, and he's about 6'1". He's not a small kid. Skinny. He needs to definitely, I mean, you should probably give him some advice on that, on the lifting side, because he needs some meat on his bones. But he was constantly targeted as being too rough, playing too hard. He did hurt a couple girls on accident. He's bigger, more muscle mass, and is stronger. And on the opposite side of it, my daughter is very small. She's about 5'2". She's 17 years old, weighs like 105 pounds. The kid's tiny. And she got hurt multiple times playing against boys. And these were just co-ed teams.
Right.
I don't think it's fair any way, shape, or form when you have a predominantly girls team that's designed as a girls team to compete against different girls to throw a guy in the middle of it. One, if they play to their true ability, they are going to hurt somebody. And it gives the girls a feeling of insecurity out there. A couple of the girls quit the soccer team. They didn't want to get hurt. They were up against guys that were a lot bigger and stronger. I mean, I remember in high school, we didn't have a whole lot of co-ed teams, but we would occasionally, like volleyball practice or something like that. Some of the football players would jump in and play volleyball with us. And we always thought it was fun until we got hit or tried to return one of their hits. The muscle mass and strength isn't there. Being female, it is very competitive. I loved playing sports. I wouldn't have played if I was playing against men.
What I never understood is the women's rights advocates. Where are they on this? I mean, they're not coming out against it. It seems like, they're just sitting on the bench and this is happening anyway, and they're not really speaking out against it. Obviously you would, but it's odd to me.
The feminist movement.
The feminist movement, yeah.
I think it's a hard shift though. There's been generations of we can do anything a guy can do, right? And so now if you come out and you say, oh no, we can't, men actually are bigger and stronger, then are you going against generations of, I mean, somebody's grandma's going to beat him with a sandal, right? Like we fought for these rights and now you're saying you don't want them. But I think just like any politics, we have this swing, right? It's either too far right or it's too far left, and we can't ever seem to find a way to get in the middle of this. And that's what we need here too, is a simple understanding that, yes, physically, most men are going to be stronger than a woman of the same age, same height. That muscle mass and stuff is different. This isn't a matter of saying that, oh, well, we can't do the same thing men can do. We are recognizing that there's laws of physics involved here.
Right.
And
Genetic.
it's just not going to happen. And in order to continue to have women's sports and get the number of women to participate than we did, we need to make it to where they want to.
Yeah.
And if you're going to end up physically hurt to the point that you're potentially in a hospital, because that has happened and is happening. I mean, some of the guys we used to spar with in volleyball, getting a ball to the face from one of them returning that hit would have broken bones. I've taken the same kind of hit from a girl the same height and age, and yeah, it hurt like hell, but it wasn't going to put me in the hospital.
Didn't play hard.
Right.
It ticked me off.
So I'm gonna go all the way to my right. I'm gonna say Trent, as a Republican, what's your opinion?
I agree 100%. And I have a dog in the fight. I've been a strength athlete all my life. And my sons knew me when I was competing. You know, I'm 5'5", you know, I'm not particularly built well, but at 62 years old, I can still reach to the floor and I can curl a 50-pound dumbbell,
Oh yeah, I can't do that.
you know, and so that proves, now, are there women that can do that? Probably. They're a lot bigger than me, you know. Going back even further, when I was younger, I was even a lot lighter and I lifted at a very high level. And to have someone come in that would say, well, I'm going to compete with gals. Well, yeah, you're going to win. The current USA powerlifting record is now held, in the women's side, is now held by a man. And he's 400 pounds ahead of 400 pounds ahead of it. And again, that gets back to fairness, you know. The guy could compete with men. I mean, again, you know, this isn't it's not a philosophical issue. It's a biological issue. I go to the gym still. I don't lift like I used to. But in the most cases, there's no biological ladies in there that can do anything close.
Yeah,
Even the higher end athletes that are.
It's a genetics thing for sure. I met Riley Gaines last year at the it was a Reagan dinner in Washington County, and her story was incredible. And you know, I was just like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And when she told us all about what happened in the locker room afterwards and everything, I'm like, you know, this is just wrong. But I know we're probably treading on some grounds here that there's a lot of political difference and opinions on. I want to switch focus a little bit here, and I want to talk about wildfire mapping. We're going to go completely out of,
Because that's safer.
because that's a lot safer. Well, some things happened this week on the House floor that are just absolutely infuriating, and it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're not mad about this, you're not paying attention. And you know, I'm gonna turn this over to Representative Yunker to start with, because he was kind of right in the middle of the heat. What happened on the House floor?
We pulled well, I've been screaming for pulling the bill since last Thursday in your committee. What happened in your committee was that
This would be Senate Bill 83.
Senate Bill 83,
Wildfire repeal.
the speaker gave the order to the chair of your committee that's oversee this, and that you'll send it to rules, which there was no reason to send it to rules because every senator already passed this in the Senate to come to the House. It should be an easy repeal. Now, to even show this even different is I'm the only House representative inside the fire map. I'm the only one received a letter in the WUI and the extreme risk, everything. The only senator is Senator Robinson, which is weird that the only two Josephine County guys they got the map. So I have a dog in this fight also. It affects me personally in my household. And I live in the city of Grants Pass, but I'm just backed up to the woods. There's 400 acres behind me. And so we pulled that bill to the floor. Our leader did, caucus leader did, and every Republican voted to make it move forward. And I think it was 29 or 28, 29 or to 24 or something like that.
29, 20. Yeah, somewhere in that.
Yeah, to
ballpark.
pass it. So we need 31, and so it failed. The Democrats are holding it hostage for funding. They want to either tax us somehow or take your kicker. The governors came after a kicker, and then obviously in your committee, Gamba wants to tie it to the kicker. That is Golden. Senator Golden's wish is to take your kicker. It's about priorities. What's the priorities in this state?
Yeah, absolutely. Frankly, so to give a little background on committee last week, the bill came to our committee, Climate and Environment Committee, and it should have passed out onto the House floor. Should have never been any kind of hesitation. Our governor decided that they want to fund this with your kicker. So right now, our kicker last year was $1.8 billion. That's money that you were overtaxed.
Yep.
And that money that you got back in your taxes, depending on your income level and wage scale. So the only way she could find a way to take your kicker was to send this bill to rules, which holds it hostage. So normally this time of the session, if a bill goes back to like a committee, it goes to die.
Yeah.
In rules, it could die. It still could die there. And that's what I accused them of. Of course, no, we're not going to kill it. So this was Senator Golden's bill. It was a Democrat bill. It was unanimously passed on the Senate floor. It came to our committee because that's the way the bills flow through. And then our committee killed it, sent it to rules rather than sending it to the House floor for a vote. And again, it's being held there in lieu of your kicker. They want to hold your kicker. So this week we tried to pull it out of rules onto the House floor for an immediate vote, which is procedurally we can do that. The Democrats would not let us do that because they have the majority, which means they voted against their own bill just to keep us from taking it out of committee and keep your kicker. So again, if you aren't upset about this, you should be, because that's your money, and there is plenty of money in general funds, lottery funds. There's plenty of ways to get the money to cover the wildfire funding.
We covered it last year. We
did.
Even though we had a special session to cover it, we can cover this. It comes down to priorities of spending.
Yes.
And as a conservative thinking people, as well, even your household, you take the money you're given and you budget appropriately. They don't want that. They want unlimited spending, and they don't want to use their general fund money because that's their play money. They want to use it for their special things. I'm not for that. And if it comes down to it, I'm not going to vote for them to take a kicker.
No.
And if I have to vote against the fire map bill, I will do that, because
I think most of us will join you.
the fire map should be repealed. It's a horrible law that was passed against us. It makes no sense. If you saw my house, there's nothing around my house within clearings of 300 or 400 feet. So, I'm like many people. They didn't assess your property, and this is hurting our property values. It's hurting insurance values. Insurance have used it. All these things are going against, and then it's not Republicans. These are just constituents in my district, your district, that are being affected, Democrat, independents, whatever they are affiliated with, that are being affected by a horrible law, pretty much because of climate change. That's their goal.
And if you go back, if you ever have the time to go back and watch the committee hearing, Representative Gamba said that we have a problem with wildfire because of climate change. I called him out.
Yep.
I told everybody in committee that they all know better than to what they're about to do, and of course they went ahead and did it anyway. The history on this is these fire mapping bills were passed in 21, I think it was, or 22. 21. It was after the
everything bad recently has been 21. So I'll just say.
So of course we weren't there, but these were passed, and then these wildfire maps were created. They were so atrocious that in 23, I think it was, that they went back and they redid the maps, and they still were atrocious. And then they just came out. So that caused all this riffraff. Well, the House Republicans put together a plan. It was House Bill 3944, I believe, to do away with maps. It was identical to Senate Bill 83. Senate Bill 83 was a Democrat bill that Senator Golden, who created the original maps, was his fix to take away the maps. They won't allow us to pull our bill out of committee. It's stuck. It's in, I don't know if it went to Ways and Means, but it's dead. And Senate Bill 83 is his. And Representative Gamba, the same representative that called us all petulant children because we're not willing to pay more taxes, sat right there in committee and said, we have this eloquent way of paying for this with your kicker. So I don't know what to say. I don't know where it's going to go. I know they have roughly 29 more days left in session to find a way to screw the Oregon people.
Well,
And
they've been screwing us since I was a child. You were a child here.
38 years they've
When
been.
my dad was driving a log truck and everything else. So this is what they've done to the rural communities, and then they want,
Yeah.
you know, all on climate change or some owl, which we now find out years later that was
Yeah.
a hoax, which we knew back then too.
Yeah.
It's always been some crazy theory they have that doesn't pan out, and we pay the price.
I mean, all I can tell you is we are going to fight like hell. In the best, obviously can't physically fight. If we could physically fight, the Republicans would be in good shape. We'd have won this fight long time ago, but we can't do that. So on the House floor in committee, I mean, we are giving them everything we can and calling them out. Now, I hope that folks remember this when it comes time to vote, right? I mean, it is that point. We are at that point in our state. If we don't start voting with common sense rather than partisanship, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. I mean, California, Washington, I believe, actually California turned a little more red last year, even though they're still pretty.
Well, there's two problems there. Is we need people to show up to vote. Yeah, I mean, we can just look at our last May election. I don't know what Douglas County is, but
pretty low.
Josephine County is horrible. I think we're at 19%. I mean, we have the easiest voting there is. It comes to your house. You don't even have to go anywhere. You can throw it back in the mailbox. You don't have to put a stamp on it, which I don't agree with that, but we have that voting system. We can't even, it's supposed to have more voter turnout, which we know it doesn't.
Yeah.
And if you want change, you got to vote. You can't just expect it to change on its own. And we kind of stopped voting the people that are causing the problems. You can complain all day long, but there's not going to change if you. I mean, look at Portland. They say they want change. People leave Portland and they vote the same horrible people back in their city council and things like that.
Well, to that point, we had the mayor of Portland, the newest mayor, Wilson, I believe is his name.
So, yeah.
Came into my committee, talked about a $850 billion
that
base.
committee with you?
Yes, that's right.
We're in that committee together.
And we questioned the heck out of it. I will give him credit that he showed up. The last mayor wouldn't even show up. He would go online. This guy shows up. And we said it, like, you want $850 million of taxpayer money to build this baseball stadium. You need to fund the police. You need to make it safe. You need to take care of your homeless problem. Oh yeah, we will. We absolutely have that in the plans. Last week, $2 million cut to the
$2
police.
million law enforcement.
So I went back in committee and tried to find that. Like, I haven't been able to find it yet, but I am an absolute zero. No, I will not support any money going into Portland at this point until they support the police. Period. Hard stop.
Well, I'm not going to support Portland. I'll just be honest with you until my county starts getting some support. We pay taxes and we get nothing from the state. We are hurting horribly from the state, from imposed mandates from them. And what they do, they want to continue to spend money on, you're in the same community I is on economic development. It's the Reed Market. It's the waterfront thing. It's
James Beard Market.
James Beard Market. It's electric ferries. And they want a baseball field, and they can't even take care of their problem. And then they have riots and anti-Semitic things going on in their city and all these other garbage. And I'm like, no, fix your act. And that's where I'm at. Is you're the beacon supposed to be of Oregon. This is Portland, but you make us look so bad here.
Yeah.
You know,
it has gotten to the point where, like I said, and I felt this way in 22, and I thought we'd maybe made it there. I feel even stronger now that we've got to that point where something has to happen. Bad things are going to happen if they don't happen. And, whether that's the climate protection thing ends up going in and we lose all of our diesel trucks, whether we lose our power. I mean,
you can't even buy a new diesel truck right now. You know that.
Yeah, no.
You're not allowed to buy a diesel truck because of rules.
Well, they're coming in with 45 miles on them from Idaho and being sold as used trucks because you can't buy a new diesel.
Yeah, I have a constituent that can't even buy he ordered a brand new truck. They sent him a check back.
Yeah.
That's how bad Oregon is. That's the most ridiculous thing. You cannot buy a new truck.
It is
For his business. And if you know anything about anything to do with business, you need a big truck to move those things around. As a son that grew up with the dad driving a log truck, you can't get supplies and goods anywhere in country without a big rig. You're not going to put it in a pickup truck. It's not going to work. I don't care how big your F-350 is.
Oh, there is just so much to talk about right now, and at the heat of the session that we're in. But hey, look, we're going to take a short break here, recognize our sponsors again, and we'll be right back with you.
Is your 4x4 ready for the trail? Twin Peaks Off-Road is your first stop for maintenance, repairs, and custom upgrades. From differential services to winch installs, we do it all. Fast, reliable, and built for adventure. Don't wait for breakdowns in the backcountry. Call Twin Peaks Off-Road today at 541-900-0015 or visit twinpeaksoffroad.net. Keep your 4x4 off the roads and in the adventure.
All right, folks, welcome back. We're going to go into our last little segment here on The Verge, the Truth in Podcast. And today has been one of those days. You're hearing a lot of truths. Not everybody's going to agree with us. That's okay. You're all welcome to start your own podcast. It's cheap. Little Mill Media, they do a great job. So if you ever need to start your own podcast, contact Justin or Garrett. They can help you out. Otherwise, you can watch mine. And if you don't want to watch mine, that's okay too. But I want to close with one little thing here. Something I wanted to touch base on, Representative Yunker, was the illegals coming through Oregon, and particularly we've had some busts in Salem.
We had a bus right here in Douglas County.
In Douglas County as well. And, a lot of that comes through your district because you're in Grants Pass and
up the I-5.
Yeah. So give us some closing thoughts on that.
Yeah, we had a bill we pulled to the floor to deal with convicted criminals, felons, only felons. And obviously, like everything else, the Democrats shut it down. We're not talking about, some guy picking lettuce or someone cleaning the house or whatever. We're talking about bad actors.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted the bad actors with our law enforcement to talk with federal government to say, hey, we have bad actors here. And that takes for one thing, we're giving our bad actors to the federal government to take care of. We don't have to pay for them. They can get rid of them. The Democrats didn't want that. And you can just see the largest fentanyl bust that happened in the United States ever, living right there blocks from the Capitol. And there's been silence. I've called it out. You can see my messages or my videos. We had 50 Honduras in Portland that were using children to sell drugs. And they're also known to human trafficking. And you went with me down to the border.
Yeah.
What's the number one thing they do is human trafficking.
Yep.
Slave labor, all these things. And I really do think there's a difference of illegals here. There's some people that just want a better life.
Yeah.
But we can't even get to the point of talking about the ones that are causing crime, which we can turn the TV on every day, that are sex trafficking, abusing children, murdering people, killing innocent people. And Democrats, they like to champion, well, one life means something. What about all those lives that these people are taking?
Yeah.
Recently, also in Lake Oswego, they've been to a house 17 times. That was my last floor speech I had. This one house in Lake Oswego, 17 times. They took a lady in Washington and kidnapped her, took a drill to her hand to get the credit card the numbers, to get money out of her bank, stole her stuff, and then shot her to die. She died. She lived. But these things are happening. These are,
I caught a lot of flack when I went to Yuma with you. There were several of us, some senators and reps that went down to the border and did a border tour of what was really going on. This is during the Biden administration.
Yeah, about a year ago almost.
Yeah, about a year ago. And I brought back facts and details, and even online I've had people go, oh wow, that's not a fact. No, we were there. We saw it.
Yeah.
We saw what happened. You can look at Fox News, you can look at CNN, or you can go to the border. And of course, I wouldn't suggest going where we went unless you have Border Patrol like we did with us. But it's really happening. Now, I think that our president has stopped most of that.
Yes.
Thank God. And since I have you here too, I'm going to bring everybody in this conversation. You have kids, right? So fentanyl is a concern. I mean, plus you're a paramedic, so you understand the risks of those type of things. And I'm sure you guys carry Narcan in your packs, right?
Yeah, so when I first started, we would carry 2 vials of Narcan. So it was about 4 milligrams, and that was usually enough. And it's gotten to now, I have 10. I think the most I've given somebody between about a 20-minute ambulance ride was all 10.
Wow.
And that was barely enough to keep them alive. In the hospital, they are putting people on Narcan drips. because it's not just the fentanyl, it's how strong everything is. It's the other things that are in it. They're mixing it. We've seen, the meth with fentanyl, the heroin, different things like that. And so they're mixing things that are made to bring you up and bring you down. We can't counteract a lot of that. And it's so readily available. One of my daughter's close friends was going to Roseburg High, and she sent me a photo one day, and it looked like a club bathroom, what I would think would look like. It was pretty much whatever you wanted, you could get. Um, the and the problem too is Narcan is treated like a safety net. So people get a hold of Narcan. I can walk in and I can get Narcan for free. I can't get epi for my son's anaphylactic allergies. You can't get, your diabetic medications, but you can get Narcan for free. And then what happens is somebody's going to try something for the first time and they know they have Narcan. That Narcan isn't going to do anything. It's not enough. It is not strong enough. It's not enough. And then people are using more and more and more. And one of the things I tell, kind of my soapbox for the EMT students and other people I work with and talk to their youth is, you're gonna try stuff. You're young. You're gonna do dumb things. You're gonna try things. You're gonna want to have fun. Narcan is not a safety net. It's the stuff that's being brought in is so strong, and it's hard to not be angry when it's coming in by people that are not even legally here. And again, it's one thing if you are working, you're contributing to society, but when you've been convicted of a crime and you've been let go and then you continue to cause harm, and it's not just that, it's the impact of society too, is what does it cost us to house a criminal?
Oh yeah.
And if that person, if you or I were to go commit a felony, at the very least we paid taxes and can contribute to some of what it costs to house us, right? I'm not going to get caught. It might, but it's fine. But if you haven't even contributed to those taxes, then that's a further hit to our economy,
Yeah.
our state, and it just keeps compounding. It's not just one impact, it's this huge domino effect.
It's a direction that has to change. Guys, we're going to wrap up for the day. Trini, you have any closing thoughts you'd like to?
I agree with everything that Gina said. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. Look at cause and effect. Look at, you guys said it eloquently, common sense. I was brought up to say, if it looks wrong, smells wrong, might be wrong, it's wrong. And taken from our kicker, that's your guys' money that you paid.
Yep.
You deserve it back. That's technically the way that's supposed to work.
Yep.
So think about it, vote common sense. Vote with the idea that, there's a lot of issues out there, but right now, Oregon needs to get back on track fiscally to a way that it's not going to be too long before we can't afford to live here. And the income you make isn't going to matter.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to keep calling them out.
Yeah.
And Representative Yunker and I will keep taking. So
We'll do some floor speeches.
So, and in the future, we might want to record some of those and just put them on here just for something to watch. But
All my floor speeches are usually uploaded.
yeah. Well, yes, and by all means, follow us on Facebook, on what is it, X, Twitter. Rep Yunker puts out some really good stuff. He's got several thousand followers that view his stuff, and we appreciate you guys spending the time with us today. We're going to go ahead and wrap up for the day. I do want to acknowledge our sponsors one more time, Little Mill Media. They're the ones who put this whole thing on for us. They do a fantastic job. If you guys could see what I'm looking at with all these cameras, it would be crazy. And so thank you for that. And of course, Twin Peaks Off-Road, my company, we also sponsor it. We, the know-how to get you into the backwoods with your four-wheel drive and the experience to get you home. That's our thing. So, thanks again for joining us, and thank you all for joining me, and making this podcast successful. And I hope you'll all come back. I know we'll get Trent back because he likes us, but,
Another week.
So look for this podcast to come out here shortly. We'll have it out probably by next week, and I'll bet you can't wait for our next one. We'll see you then.